Hello, everybody. I want to welcome you to Compass Games Live. Liver, not liver. It's live, episode 70. And yes, today's January 27th, 2022. So it's great to have you here all tonight. Looking forward to our session. We've got a lot to cover. So without further ado, let's go ahead and just do a quick update on our project pipeline. Actually, the release schedule has not really changed since our town hall last week. So across the board, Combat Volume 2, people should be receiving that game now. That was our last update from last week. And also, let me make this a little bit larger for everybody. We're looking at Joe Bukowski's St. Lo will be our next release. Again, that's not a Compass Games publication itself. It's something that we're helping support Jack Green with. It's now something we sell direct only. It's not available through distributors, but that will be our next release. And then, of course, we have Third World War series, which is the 4 games in one package. That's going to be our next big release after that. And you can see the rest of the games we have marked for now include War for America by Gilbert Collins, Barbarian at the Gates, and African Campaign Deluxe, which means we're adding a mounted map and updating the components and the rules for that game as well. So schedule hasn't changed, but I just want to make sure I went through it for everybody. What I'd like to do is just remind you all, again, on our website, in the bottom right-hand corner, you'll see a little bell icon. You'll probably see a number on that whenever we have new news items. So here you can see, for example, the new video links page is the leading story from today that we posted. We're going to have Maurice Fitzgerald of Mo's Game Table on here in a moment to talk about our new video page that we feature on our website. Before I do that, I just want to go through real quickly here the newsletter we sent out for today, the 27th. So obviously the news was about our broadcast tonight because we're going to be introducing a special guest here in a few minutes, as well as obviously a corresponding new game project. So I'm really excited to be able to do that. We're going to talk about the new video links page with Mo. I'm going to bring Mo on here in a second. And then just a reminder that our Kickstarter is going to be ending soon. So again, we'll talk about the new video links page here in a moment. We'll see a live demo of that. The Kickstarter is doing great, so thanks for everybody who may have not pre-ordered at all. But if you went through our Kickstarter program, really, great results so far. Nearly 300 wargamers out there have used Kickstarter to pledge and back this game, which surprises me because I thought really more the traditional wargamer, we're going to get them through our website. Maybe something more like a science fiction game or sort of a crossover Euro style game that's not a traditional war game. I would expect that would go through our website pre-orders, but believe it or not, look at this. We've got nearly 300 out there that may have first learned about this game through our Kickstarter program. So we're really happy to see the support we're getting, and we're excited to be releasing that game shortly. Also, I do want to do just a quick announcement that we have a game that is now being submitted to the printers, meaning the project is officially over. So Mike Wilner, who's based out of New York, he's been working on this design at least 2 or 3 years. Great playtest group as well. They've been active the past 18 months at least, and we've been in the artwork final development playtesting phase for over a year. And we're really excited about this design. It's similar to the game design and mechanics from Prelude to Rebellion, which covers Canadian campaigns. But this is obviously leading to the Russian Civil War, precursors to the Russian Civil War or the Revolution. So we're really excited about this game, that it's now officially has gone to the printer. So I just want to give a shout out to Mike Wilner and his team, and Newt Grunitz, the artist of the game. You'll see some of the artwork up on the product page, and kudos to them. Which reminds me, I do want to do a quick search and show you one other thing that we have updated because we do get a lot of questions about this. So for Hitler's Last Gamble, I'm just going to navigate to this page here, and you'll see there's been quite a few images added to this page. So we've added the back of the box cover for the game. Yes, it's been going on. It's been a very active project, probably a few thousand posts by the project team. They want to get this project right, very meticulous, and Danny Parker's leading the effort as the designer, and he's a researcher, his background, book author, researcher. Very meticulous project, but I guarantee it's going to be worth the wait. So you'll see a lot of components. This is a view of the 2 maps put together. So this is actually 2 full-size maps. I've got a little close-up here, which I could even zoom in closer on to show you the detail of the map. So lots of eye candy there. And then we've got 6 counter sheets with the game. This, I've got the guidelines, where the counters are. Of course, the guidelines won't print out, but this shows you, the outline of each counter. But you can again zoom in for a little bit of a closer look at all these counters, and there's 6 counter sheets with this game. Lots of player aids, etc. So I did want to share that briefly. That I only had the front box cover for over 2 years for Hitler's Last Gamble, so I thought it was only fair that we provide an update on that project. We are steadily making final progress on that. Now, Combat Volume 2, that is again our most recent release that is now shipping, as mentioned. I mentioned the upcoming releases, which is Bukowski, St. Lo, and the Third World War. Our subscription for Paper Wars will be 101 through 104, as you already know. I'll have Mo talk about our latest Vassal release. This is covered again in the newsletter. Our most recent releases, and the Compass Games Enthusiast page is up to 1,600 members. We're now live, of course, and that pretty much covers it. So what I want to do right now is let's bring in Mo. And Mo, I didn't know if you want to do the demo on your end and share your screen, or I can just point to it. But thought we'd bring you on to talk about the video library, if you like.
Yeah, you can pull it up if you'd like to on yours, because you already got yours going there. So
sure. So so just so everybody knows, and I'll sort of highlight this. So along our bar here, our main navigation to the website, we've added a new link. We had Learning Library before, which I think we'll talk about here in a moment. But yeah, let's take it away. Tell me what you'd like me to do here. I'll click on videos. And
yeah, go ahead and click on videos.
Okay.
And what you can do now is you go into the videos, and it's going to have the unboxings, playthroughs, reviews, any interviews with the designers, things like that, all going to be covered here. 5 games across, and there's 89 games in total. These are the active games in the catalog, and you'll have all of the videos that I've caught so far. I know I'm missing some, but this was a pretty large project. We've got 89 games. I got 551 URLs in there, and a lot of those URLs are playlists. So that
playlist as well. Right.
Yeah.
I've seen a combat playlist. Somebody did a playthrough of combat. 15, 20 videos. It's like, if you listen to each one, I'd be scrolling forever. So I'm glad I'm glad you did the playlist. It looks like Brotherhood and Unity sort of takes the cake here from just a scroll here, just keeps going on forever. But I know we have some others like that as well. Some other
there are several games that have a lot.
Yeah. So this is great. So just the backstory on this, Mo worked on Learning Library. So I should jump to Learning Library, because that's really, I think, sort of was the brainchild. This was the first idea you had for Compass here. Let me just turn off the highlighting here. So here's our Learn to Play series.
Yep, that's all here. The latest Learn to Play is Imperial Tide, as you see there for Learn to Play 07. And then at the very top, if we go back up to the top real quick, you can see now you could just click on that link right there, and you'll go right to the Vassal module page for all of the Compass games that are out there. All the Compass modules are on that one page. So if you're looking for one after you see something in the Learning Library, now you can go to that page. You can go ahead and download the Vassal, and you can get the playing.
Right, and you've added you've been helping oversee that whole effort, and you've added a lot. And I know for this newsletter, we announced one new Vassal module, which is Triumph of the Will.
Triumph of the Will.
One, that is the newest module that's gone live, and I know we're catching up in some cases on older titles, so we're trying to complete the library. So this is great to see. We've got another title, the early release, now is available on Vassal for everybody to enjoy. So
yeah, we're almost done with those now. We're almost caught up on all the older. There are still some that are being worked on, but now we're in that transition of working on development as well as new games. So we're going to be moving forward with that.
And Vassal really helps with the play testing, for sure. So
yeah,
Paul, Paul has a question for you about lamps. If it's the 2nd edition, that's on Vassal.
No, that is still the original. There's no update on the 2nd edition yet.
Okay, okay, great. So, and then E4 Airman, thanks for joining us on YouTube. He says, great work. Thanks for all you do. And again, that new video page that I'm showing here, hopefully everybody, and what we're also doing is if I go to maybe I'll just go to Battle Him just to give everybody an idea. I'm still working through this part, trying to help you. I'm your able assistant here. But what I've done here is, okay, we've got the video library page listing all the games 5 across. What we're now adding to each product page is, and we'll just maintain it separately, is we're also adding all the same video links. So the idea is if a gamer is interested in a game and they're on our product page, We don't want to have to push them out to a video page where there's a bunch of other stuff. We want them to be able to stay focused on this particular game, learn more about the game through videos. So no problem, sort of just we just have to keep it in sync, which is no
Yeah.
problem. So when you add a new video to the main page, the video library page, we'll add it to these individual product pages as well.
Mhm.
Is the plan that as a new item gets added, it will be the topmost item by default? That so if something
No,
new,
it'll really kind of fall into like I want to do anything that is an interview is going to be first, and then after
okay,
the interviews will be the unboxings, previews,
okay, so
and
they're
then after
grouped.
that reviews to be towards the bottom. Yeah.
Okay,
So
great.
go back to the video page for a second. I want to show everybody one other thing.
Sure thing. So I'll go back to the video page, and again, everybody can follow along with their
Mhm.
browser and do this. Okay, I'm there now.
So whenever you're looking at any of these games, pick any game and just click on a link that you want to watch. Say, hey,
Okay,
let's check one of these unboxings, for
I'm gonna
example.
go for a player. Let's see. Do I have you in here? I gotta have Mo's in here somewhere. I gotta find one of yours. Come on. There, here we go.
There you go.
Let's do a preview of Attrition of Souls. Let's go for that.
Yeah, you
All
just
right.
click
So
on it.
this.
It's going to open up in a separate
Yep.
browser or a separate tab. And then, of course, it's going to do the obligatory YouTube advertising. And then after
There
that,
it
you'll
is.
be able
Yep.
to watch the video. And then you can go back to the original
So it
tab.
goes right to the video for it.
Yep. And you can go right to back to the same tab you were in where you have all the videos. You can go
Yep.
through all of them, watch all the videos
Yep.
that you want to watch, and
Perfect.
then go up to the game itself, the game cover.
Okay.
And
Click
you
on
just
that.
click on the game cover and it takes you to the
Wow.
catalog page. So if
Takes
you
you to
watch the videos
perfect.
and you're like, hey, I want to get this game, click on the cover and it takes you right to the product page. You can go ahead and place
Perfect.
your order.
Oh, that's perfect. Thanks for doing all that work.
Yeah.
So that's really great. So wonderful. So again, everybody, please check out the videos link. That's new. Of course, the learning library. Do we have an announcement yet for next month for what the next Learn to Play session is going to be by
Yes.
chance?
It'll be the
Oh,
Conquistadors. Finally, we're able to get John Southard to
oh,
sit down
wonderful.
with us and do that. We're finally going to get to do that. I know Bill wanted us to do that, but he had some scheduling issues,
Right.
and finally we got that squared away. So
Oh,
that'll be the next
wonderful.
one.
Okay, great. Well, Mo, great job again. Thanks so much
Mhm.
for helping add this. It's important. It's right on our main navigation. We don't want anybody to miss it. So great job on that. One question here before I let you go is how about a link to how to use Vassal? So that would be, I
Hmm.
have that in the newsletter actually. So the
Yeah, we can get
newsletter,
that in there.
yeah, so we can add maybe a precursor. I guess that's to sort of
For the
announce.
learning library, I'll put it in the learning
Oh, for the
library.
learning library,
Yeah,
exactly. I almost need a learning tutorial on how to use Discord for those.
yeah,
I
that's
know,
not a
I
bad
know, I
idea.
know. One of our designers said, "Would love to do a learn to play on my design, but Discord, I can't figure out the user interface to
Yeah.
Discord. So maybe we need to do a Discord tutorial as well."
Well, just send them to me, and I'll help them out. And then we'll work on getting something for Discord up there as
Exactly.
well. But we'll get you something for the Vassal on the page.
Well, as Paul took the words out of my mouth, so great job. I know it's ongoing effort.
Mhm.
It's going to be probably a daily effort given all the videos we see coming out daily. So this is not going to go away anytime soon.
No,
We're going to be doing updates to the videos library every day on the Compass site for sure. So thanks so much for your work, Mo. I really appreciate it. And we'll talk to you again. I don't know
sure.
if there's anything else we need to cover. I wanted to make sure before I let you
No,
escape.
that's pretty much it. I just wanted to let everybody know that that's available now. And if you have any video links that you see that are not there,
Yeah, yeah.
let me know, because I am going out and I'm trying to catch as many as I can, but I'm definitely going to miss some. I know that because they're
There's a lot
maybe
out there.
named differently than what I'm expecting. And even though I cast a wide net, I may miss them. So if I do, let me know.
Sounds good. Thanks so much, Mo. Really appreciate it.
Thanks.
And you take care. Bye bye.
Take care.
All right. Well, without further ado, so it was great talking to Mo, and I really appreciate everything he's done. He's been a huge supporter, not so much of Compass, but really just in terms of what we can do to support customers, learn to play, now this video library. So Mo's just doing just an awesome job. So we really appreciate it. And what we're going to be doing now is we're going to be transitioning to our special guest. I'm just going to spend a moment just to give you some background on our special guest for tonight. So I'm very pleased and honored that we're going to be welcoming tonight as our special guest, Ambassador Philip Kosnett, now officially retired from his ambassadorship of many years. I look forward to talking to Phil, going back to his early days and youth, all the way through also his professional career, which again, he's just celebrating now with retirement. So we're looking forward to doing that. And we're also going to be talking about Phil's now re-entering the realm of game design. So we're really excited to welcome Phil Kosnett. So without further ado, let's go ahead and welcome Phil to our show for tonight. How you doing, Phil?
I'm doing great, John. It is a great pleasure to be here and to be affiliating with Compass Games.
Well, it's great to have you here. And again, just to share with everybody again, just a reminder of your career. And maybe if you don't mind, well, let's start maybe this with the most recent. I know when did you retire? When were you from your ambassadorship?
So I retired from the Foreign Service 2 months ago. Didn't retire from life.
Yes, thank goodness.
Our military brothers and sisters talk about transitioning from military service to civilian life. I like that term. But until a couple of months ago, I had the privilege of being the U.S. ambassador in the Republic of Kosovo, a former part of the former Yugoslavia. That was kind of the capstone of a 38-year career serving and
Wow, 38
representing
years.
the United States and Europe, the Middle East, and Asia. And now I have a number of irons in the fire, doing consulting, doing some think tank work, editing a book on military diplomacy for Marine Corps University Press, which
Great.
some of you guys might be interested in. And among other things, I'm back designing old school hex and counter war games.
I'm not going to complain about that at all. So since we're talking about war games, now we're going to take time travel. We're going to go back to your youth, where you were living at the time. How did your introduction to war games happen? I always ask that question to everybody I talk to.
So my first war game was Avalon Hill's Midway when I was about 8 years old. My older brother Jeff and I started playing Avalon Hill games and I was living in Illinois when I was in junior high, and then moved to New Jersey, where I had been born at the beginning of high school. And by then I was subscribing to S&T, enjoying SPI games, writing for Moves magazine, which some of you may remember was SPI's game theory and review magazine. And make a long story short, when I was 15, this summer between sophomore and junior years of high school, they hired me to be the receptionist at SPI at 44 East 23rd. And what Jim Dunnigan was doing, running SPI, is he was identifying, young, precocious kids who he would not be able to afford, 20 years on in their lives.
Smart guy. I like it.
Paying next to nothing for the pleasure of working at SPI. And one of the advantages of SPI's use of the quadra game format, which some of you may remember, is
you did when we did a quad game, by the way, a folio. I'm gonna show it here in a moment.
Okay. Yeah. My first game for SPI was from the Modern Battles quadra game called Yugoslavia, because these games were designed so that they had standardized rules, and SPI could use people without previous game design experience to design a game in the series, because half of the work was done for them.
Ah, interesting. And then somebody asked the question here of you from John Tsai. He's wondering if Mark Herman started off also as a receptionist.
He did. I had to go back to high school in September of 1976, and Mark Herman slid in right behind me and became a legend. Not
how was it?
But as a game designer.
How was it working? How did you feel working at SPI was for you? Was it a very quick learning? Like, I know you started the folio game, used the quad game, you had the, I guess, playtesting sessions going on. How did you sort of cut your teeth at developing your early design repertoire at SPI?
So SPI, like other publishers at the time, relied a lot on volunteer playtesters. People will remember the Friday Night Follies, where gamers around the New York area would go to SPI's office, play test games. This was, of course, long before we were doing any kind of online play testing. And they would spot playtester talent, and turn us into game designers. But what I got so much out of my experience at SPI, not just learning history and strategy, but also learning teamwork, understanding that everybody on the team, whether they were packaging games or running the company, Jim Dunnigan, Redmond Simonson, the art director, yeah,
Yeah.
everybody had a vital role to play. I learned discipline. I learned about deadlines.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I made lots of mistakes along the way, but all the lessons I learned at SPI really helped me in the course of my diplomatic career.
Was there one lesson in particular you think, as far as your skill set, that you applied later? Was there anything that stands out that you feel like was the most valuable? Was it teamwork? Was it taking on responsibilities? Just curious what you feel like was where you grew the most
Well, let me
at
give
a
you
young
2
age.
answers for that, John. One was
Okay.
absolutely the sense of teamwork, that everybody around that table was a partner. You were not a rival to anyone else on the design team. And again, everyone on the team, whether they were in art or production or game design or the money
Mhm.
people, yeah, mattered vitally. And those of you who remember those days in the 1970s know that SPI, like a lot of small businesses, grew to the point where it couldn't quite handle the scale. And it was
Okay.
started by
Yeah.
people who knew more about games than about business. Uh, so in a sense, that kind of relates to the old military trope that professionals study logistics and amateurs argue about tactics. We could design all kinds of great games, but if we couldn't
Yeah.
get the money part right, the company wasn't going to last.
Makes sense. And then we're looking at some of your designs, not all of your designs, but most of your designs here. I heard a funny story about Warren. Well, I don't know if it's funny or not. I heard a story. Tell me if it's true or not. For Warren the Ice, somebody said Redmond did an all-nighter and did the box cover by himself overnight. I don't know if that's true or not, but
I've heard that story. I think that's right. That they didn't have another illustrator lined up, so he did it. I have to say,
amazing work.
Brendan Simonson was a tremendous influence, and a lot of the other people
Yeah.
who worked at SPI as teenagers have told these stories about how
Yeah.
Redmond didn't think of you as some punk kid. He thought
Yeah.
of you as a professional, and he held you to the same standard he would hold anybody else to. He made a tremendous contribution.
I've heard that common thread amongst people working alongside Redmond. How, yeah, he was very demanding, but very respectful, and it's amazing the work he did. It's an interesting array of titles you have. I see science fiction and I actually didn't know you had done some work with metagaming. How did that come together? That your where you were published by Metagaming. I'm curious about that.
Well, the first game I actually have a design credit for was Airborne from Jagdpanther, which was Steve Cole and
Hmm.
Alan Eldridge's company in Texas. And I did that before I started working for SPI. I worked for SPI when I was in high school. And then
Hmm.
in 1978, I left the New York area to go up to New England for college. And a couple of years later, Howard Thompson, who ran Metagaming in Texas, wrote me and said, "Could you do a tack armor game for us?" And I remember saying, "Well, don't you already have a tack armor game called Ogre?" He said, "Yeah, the world loves tack armor games. We need another one." Okay, so I did a tack armor game, science fiction tack armor game. And
Yeah.
Howard said, "Okay, this is all right, but it needs like a big killer tank in it." And I said, "Well, isn't that just like Ogre?" And he said, "The
Yeah,
world needs a big
it
killer
does
tank."
sound like that.
Okay, what I didn't know was going on at this time, Steve Jackson was in the process of getting the rights
Ah,
to Ogre, which
there
he
you
had
go.
designed from Howard, and setting out on his own with Steve Jackson Games, which is how we ended up having the Hell Tank series at Metagaming, which was a lot of fun. The company went away very quickly,
Mm.
prematurely, just like SPI. So once again, my games were orphaned.
I'm sorry to hear that, but I've had the pleasure of I've actually played Yugoslavia many years ago. I was a teenager. Definitely have played War in the Ice Solitaire. I only played it solitaire, but I played it several times. I think I really loved it.
That's a
Objective.
three-player game. How do you play War in the Ice Solitaire?
I was a teenager. I didn't have anybody to play with,
Uh,
so my brother dropped out of the hobby. He introduced me. I think Midway may have also been one of our early titles together. But then we got the first time we could buy a game together. We bought Kriegspiel from Avalon Hill, and he was so disappointed with it. He quit the hobby cold turkey. So I had nobody to play with because I was quite young. I was like 13, 14. So I just ended up playing solitaire a lot of the time because he never touched a game after Kriegspiel. I don't know why, but that was his decision. But Objective Moscow, I've never played Objective Moscow, but I have seen these stacks of air units or whatever that was, because for Consum World Expo, they were playing Objective Moscow, and they were hooting and hollering, having a great time. And I know when I first approached you, I said, "Would you ever consider redoing Objective Moscow?" To which you replied, "No." I know you said, "Nah, it's just not something you
Well,
want to update." You know.
so here's the deal on this. So to be specific, I was not the original designer of Objective Moscow. Joe
Hmm.
Angelillo was a
Okay.
very fine designer, did
Hmm.
Typhoon, a few other things. I
Yep.
was the developer. And for those who have never seen it, Objective Moscow was a giant four mapper. Yeah,
It
Mr.
was.
Yell,
Yep.
who's selling this.
Yep.
It had
Yep.
this absolutely stunning four map overview of the Soviet Union, and the deal is everybody invades it: NATO, China, Iranians, and
Yeah.
SPI put this out following on the success of Invasion America, which was a similar kind of future history science fiction game where the whole world gangs up and invades North America.
I saw you did a very detailed article on Invasion America. I don't know if that was Moves, but I saw you authored something on Invasion America that looked pretty deep. I'm guessing it was Moves. I don't
It
know for
was in
sure.
moves, and I think that's why they said, "Okay, great, you like this stuff. You can be the developer for Objective Moscow." Now,
Ah,
Objective
okay.
Moscow has a real following to this day. It's hard to find
Yeah.
copies. Um,
Yes.
I I have to say I do not think I did as good a job as I should have developing the game. One of the complaints about it was that you have this gorgeous map, but you actually play on a very small portion of the map. Okay, so what you and I talked about was re-examining these themes. It's not a
Yeah.
redesign of
No. Yeah.
Moscow, but
Right.
doing
Right.
a game that would have a similar kind of a different but similar alternate history
Yes.
feel, different alternate history scenario, where we would examine what it would be like if the Chinese and NATO and the Iranians were to invade the Soviet Union. Uh, Something else I wanted to do
Hmm.
was to have a more detailed treatment of politics and
Right.
diplomacy, because the difference between my approach to games, back in the 70s and 80s, and my approach now, having spent 40 years
In
as
there.
a
Yeah.
political military officer with the State Department, including 4 years in Iraq and Afghanistan, is that I've seen how senior commanders don't really spend most of their time figuring out where their maneuver brigades are going, where their battalions
Mm.
are going. They're not just pushing pieces around on the map. They're thinking about logistics. They're thinking about diplomacy and how to hold the alliance together. They are, thinking about intelligence a lot. Morale, not just the morale of the troops, but
Yeah.
what effect their operations are having on national morale back home. So I thought if I was going to do another modern game, I would want to have a much more detailed treatment of that stuff while still keeping the Panzer pushers happy.
Since you mentioned your diplomatic career, about 40 years, I want to ask you how your background in wargame design leading to your career,
Mhm.
was there any carryover? I know you said from SPI, you learned some things. It was great things to learn from, but I'm wondering, is there anything you applied to your political career from what you learned during your wargame design days?
So, State Department diplomats have different specialties. I was what we refer to as a political military officer. So I had a lot of assignments overseas and in Washington, dealing with political military issues, cooperation with the military, counterterrorism, and so on. And I had the privilege, among other things, of being the State Department foreign policy advisor to the U.S. Corps commander in Iraq for a little over a year. Lieutenant General Ray Odierno, who passed away recently.
Mm-hmm.
And sitting in the command group of the Corps was, something I think many wargamers would consider a tremendous opportunity, but it was also very educational. And in terms of my ability to function, to be able to provide a different point of view, to talk about the diplomatic or political implications of military action. The fact not just that I worked at SPI, but that I grew
Mhm.
up, as all of us did, studying military history, made a
Right.
big difference. And it also meant that when I showed up as the State Department guy and people were looking at me and saying, okay, we know this guy hasn't served in the military. What does he bring to this other than his diplomatic know-how? Pretty quickly, it turned out that I knew the difference between airborne and air mobile. I,
Yeah,
I
those
could I could look at a map and read a map.
sure, sure.
I learned how pretty quickly how to talk to E7s as well as O3s. It was definitely a tremendous opportunity, and one where I felt that my ability to contribute in a civ mil environment owed a lot to my background in wargaming.
Right. And I'm going to say it's great to have you back in the fold now as a designer. What made you, I mean, you've got a lot of things you're doing now, book writing and other groups you're working with. So what got you interested in game design,
Mhm.
returning some of your time towards game design?
Right. Well, I never gave up on the hobby. Like a lot of us, I probably spent more time buying games than playing them over the years. And, I kept looking
We can
forward,
all relate. We can all relate to that, I
and,
think, a little bit.
my wife was very good sport about this, and but she always said, when are you going to have time to play these
Yeah.
collectors? And I said, well, after I retire, I'll play them. And then this opportunity arose, and John, I owe this to you to actually get back into design. And I figured if I'm going to spend time in gaming, I can scratch this creative itch as well.
That's
And again, design using some of the I guess I can say lessons learned or new
yeah.
ways of looking at military affairs that I've learned over the years.
I was going to say, and that's what I'm really interested in. So let's do this for everybody. Let's introduce the game project. Uh, and this came out of the Objective Moscow discussion, but as you mentioned, everything you've experienced through the decades in your capacity, it's changed your focus to design philosophy, what systems you want to model. So I'd like you to talk about that, but let's talk about that in the context of the design work you're doing, this new project, which is Vengeance, the Fall of the Soviet Union 2025. And it's a quad game, everybody. So as Phil mentioned earlier on, how he cut his teeth early at SPI, they did it through quad games and folios, as you did with Yugoslavia. So this is a quad game. But yeah, can you give us maybe first of all, just to set this up, set the table for
Mhm.
us,
Right.
Phil, if you would tell us what this design is all about, what it encompasses at a high level, elevator pitch about it.
So this is an alternate history game set in the contemporary era, uh, and the briefly the scenario is that the Soviet Union fell in 1991 on schedule. The United States managed to avoid its long-term military commitments in Iraq and Afghanistan, and the Soviet Union fell, Russia came into being, and this does frankly bear an uncanny resemblance to what we're actually seeing
Yeah,
in the real world today. Yeah,
yeah,
Russia started to flex its muscles in the near abroad to try to reassert its influence in the Baltics, in Ukraine. That tension was increasing between Russia and China, and Russia managed in according to the scenario, Russia manages to reassert control in Soviet Central Asia, Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, Tajikistan, and so on. And the citizens in Central Asia do not like being part of the Russian Empire again. And eventually, uh, the leadership in Moscow declares that the Soviet Union has exists once again. They raise the flag, and this leads to internal dissent. And make a long story short,
hmm
internal dissent in the new neo-Soviet Union turns into civil war, and the Chinese and the Americans and NATO and Iraq and Iran and everybody, they all pile on and invade Russia. Now, that's the science fiction background for it.
Right.
Operationally, okay, yeah, this is not objective Moscow, and I
Right.
make that
Right.
clear. Just
Right.
like, you were talking earlier about Danny Parker's Hitler's Last Gamble game. I don't know
Yeah.
how many times Danny has done a game on the Bulge, about half a dozen times.
I'll tell you what. This time he really wants to get it right. You would not believe the amount of effort his team and himself. That's what they're. You just
Yeah,
can't
it's a lot
appreciate
of
the
Bulge
effort. It's
games. Yeah,
amazing. It's amazing. Yeah.
yeah, and then 5 years from now, Danny will say, I got some new ideas." Um, So the idea is this is very different in terms of a package from anything you've seen before. It is a quad.
Yes.
The game scale is approximately 30 miles to the hex. Combat units are battalions and brigades, and there are 4 fronts. Operation Checkmate. Okay, let's look at this. This is the map for 4 Horsemen, which is the Central Asia front, where the war begins with a rebellion by some of the forces in Uzbekistan and Tajikistan, and then from the southwest corner of the map, the Iranians appear, reinforced by some U.S. Marines. I believe we will have Chinese paratroopers, and the Russians start sending more forces in, desperately trying to put down the rebellion. And the Iranians and the Americans and Chinese are, racing to the rescue of the Tajiks and Uzbeks who are holding on in the fabled Silk Road cities like Samarkand and Bukhara. Okay, so that's where the war begins.
Okay.
Uh, there's a second front in Siberia, and I think we have the map for Stand in the Fire. And at the very bottom center of the map is Vladivostok, and you will see, right, that's Vladivostok, and so the Chinese will be making a big push on Vladivostok, on Khabarovsk, trying to cut the Trans-Siberian Railway. And there have been other alt history games on this front. And so I try to make it a little different. One thing that will be different is that North Korea will play a role. So as
Okay.
the Chinese are pushing on the Soviets, they will have to worry about what the North Koreans are doing. And we will also have U.S. Marines and Japanese maritime self-defense forces. Now, and then the other 2 maps we don't
Right.
have yet.
We
Oh
don't have
yeah,
those ready yet. Yeah, the 2 map. This is early. This is early in the artwork phase. As you can see, we got the front cover and 2 of the 4 maps
right.
being in draft status right now. That's all we
Right.
have for tonight.
The other right. The other, always leave them wanting more. We
That's
will
right.
we will roll out more information later.
That's right.
The other 2 maps cover the European front. So
Yeah.
and they will stretch from the Finnish front all the
Hmm.
way down to the Crimea, and that will be 2 maps will cover the European front. Those games are called Operation Checkmate, the NATO drive on Moscow, Glory and Freedom, the Ukrainian front. Those two maps will mate together, so you can have 2 map scenarios.
Oh, great,
And
great.
I also plan to have a 4 map game, a 4 map campaign game. So you find there will be rules for
Perfect.
connecting all 4 of them. So
There you go. That would make the Objective Moscow folks happy. Something like a
yeah.
monster, not just 2 maps, but 4 maps.
But
Perfect.
the difference between this and Objective Moscow is you will use all the area on these maps, okay? Because these are operational brigade level games. And
Right.
in terms of design philosophy, okay, yes, there you will be moving your brigades and your battalions around and your divisions. I want the players to feel like they are in the position of a front commander. Or you
Okay.
might, if you are playing the Allies, you think of yourself as the CENTCOM commander, the EUCOM commander, the Indo-Pac commander. Now, this is not the sort of game where you are moving individual air squadrons around on the map. There's nothing wrong with those games. Those are a lot of fun. Uh, that's not what, a 3-star or 4-star is thinking about all day. What he
Hmm.
is thinking about maneuvering forces, but he's also thinking about how to keep the restive populations calm as you move forward. So the game will feature provincial reconstruction team units, which was
Oh,
something
okay.
that we had in Iraq and Afghanistan. My wife was on provincial reconstruction teams in Iraq and Afghanistan.
Really? Really?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't I didn't
Um,
realize your wife was involved in that. Okay, cool.
yeah, yeah, we both spent years in Iraq and Afghanistan. The PRTs are there to discourage uh, the enemy from being able to recruit guerrilla forces, because there will be partisans, there will be guerrilla forces.
Okay.
Paul Walker is asking about Sweden. You want Sweden? We can give you Sweden, because something that we're seeing now is the possibility of Sweden and Finland.
Yes, absolutely.
Joining
Yeah, that's yeah,
NATO.
they're talking about that already.
So we
Yes.
will have provincial reconstruction teams. We will have militia units and guerrilla units and partisans.
Mhm.
Across the board, there will be Ukrainian and Russian partisans. There will be Islamic militia and guerrilla units, and on the Central Asia front. The Caucasus front, that depends. Someone's asking, what about the Caucasus front?
Yep.
That depends on how many copies of this we sell.
Okay,
So,
that's I'm not too worried about that, to be honest. I think given the topic and the timeliness and you
yeah.
returning to design and your new focus or what your refined focus is going to be,
But
it's going to be a
if this
standout
is
design. So
if this is a big hit, in all seriousness,
yeah,
because of the folio model, because it is a series of one mappers, we
yeah,
could do other games. We could do the
yeah,
Caucasus front, with
yes,
Armenia, Azerbaijan.
yes,
I can imagine using the same system for Cuba, or
mm,
other
yeah.
corners of the world. So the sky's the limit there. I want to emphasize, though, before I forget, there will also be a significant political and diplomatic dimension
I
to
was going
this.
to ask about soft factors or things outside of military doctrine,
Right.
how because that's been an influence for you.
And there
Yeah.
will be soft units. Soft units will play an important role,
Okay.
among other things, in supporting and increasing the capabilities of militia units, of guerrillas. If you are raising guerrilla units, let's say that they are Uzbek guerrilla units or Ukrainian guerrilla units, then you might have NATO or other allied soft stacked with them to increase their tech level, to increase
Hmm.
their morale. Okay.
Interesting. Okay, to increase their capabilities, right?
And there will be diplomatic and political and intelligence rules where you're fighting on your front, and suddenly there might be big trouble back home, and some of your units, your reinforcements, get diverted to put down rebellions in the rear. uh, a big issue in a lot of the games will be, will certain neutral countries become
Mm,
involved? uh,
sure, sure. Yeah.
we will the Israelis show up to fight against the Soviets in Central Asia, and how's that going to work alongside the Iraqis and the Iranians? Will the North Koreans launch, in against the Chinese flank? So all of these are the sort of headaches that 3-star, 4-star, and front commanders need to worry
Right.
about.
I had a question at a larger scale, at a more global, say, geopolitical scale. So when we talk about, say NATO, the NATO drive on Moscow, um, are there any considerations for like what's happening with Germany right now with the oil and their relationship with Russia from an economic perspective? That like there's no flyovers right now permitted in Germany, so maybe they wouldn't commit as much. So I'm wondering, like, with the commitment level of all of NATO, could that shift or could that be in doubt or in question in your hypothetical situation at all?
So I think, well, the basic scenario, the basic science fiction backstory of the game right now, uh, sort of assumes that everybody is hell bent on destroying the Soviet Union and bringing
Okay,
about
gotcha. So
regime change
everybody, so
at
it's a
the
unified
beginning.
NATO effort.
Right, at the beginning. But morale is going to play a
Okay,
huge effect on the game. And so, if the Germans are finding themselves ground down, that's going to have an effect on public opinion back in Germany. And
sure, sure.
certainly, the Germans may pick up their bat and ball and go home. Uh, and I think we've seen that military commanders in the 21st century, certainly they cannot be oblivious to casualties, even if they wanted to. And no commander I've ever worked with, took his lives lightly. But at some point, people are going to say, and we've certainly seen
Yeah.
this in recent events, they're going to say, why are our troops over there? Why are we doing
Yes.
this? What are we
Yes.
gaining? What are
Exactly.
we doing from
Exactly.
it?
Some design questions. Some design questions are coming here, as you can see, from Gordon on YouTube. Thanks for joining us tonight, Gordon. So he's curious from a mechanic standpoint. Is there anything in terms of random event cards or event chits, anything along those lines from a mechanics perspective of your
Right.
design at this point?
Not planning on cards. There will be a diplomacy phase
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
every fourth game turn. The
Okay.
game turns are weekly, by the way. So every
Or
month,
weekly. Okay.
right, weekly turns. Every month you have diplomacy phase. And diplomacy, it's a little bit of shorthand because it also includes some special operations events, diplomacy, economic developments that have an effect on the forces on the battlefield. And the player, in the role of a high level commander, can have some influence on this, but he doesn't completely control it. So there's an element of randomness in it, but you can affect it as a player because you will have diplomacy points, and you can
Okay.
choose each diplomacy phase what you want to attempt to influence. The air game, by the way, before I forget, is
Okay.
rather abstracted.
Mm-hmm.
Again, this is not the sort of game where, as a 4-star, you're saying, I want this
Yeah.
squadron F-35.
Individual squadron sorties.
But there are different sorts of air points. There are air transport units. There's close air support, deep strike. The
Mm,
U.S. Air Force is much more effective than many air forces at deep strike, which has
mm-hmm.
an interdiction capability. And to make your deep strike forces effective, you need to win the air superiority battle. The fighter battle.
Yes. Yes. First. Yes.
So this will be going on, and there'll be some elements of poker in that, in the sense that you will have some ability to hide from the other side what you're doing with your air units until you unveil them. And there
Yeah.
will also be. I'm trying to keep this from getting too complicated and geeky, but there will be logistics rules that are a little bit take a little bit more work than
You
just.
mentioned that's important. Yeah, you mentioned how important logistics is really,
It
and
really
and
is.
yeah,
And
yeah,
so it's not going to be like the really old school games where it's like, well, if you can trace, a clear axis to the map edge, everybody is 100% supplied, because life's a little more complicated than that. So there will be supply units,
okay,
but we're trying to keep it streamlined so people don't get too bored with it. Or as Jim Dunnigan liked to say, there isn't much romance in counting sheets.
right. And you have to have your focus on it. You're modeling certain things and putting additional focus on certain elements of the design. You can't have everything blown up with all kinds of chrome. You're going to lose the focus. But there is another design question about this project. And Paul over on YouTube's asking, is there any modeling of cyber warfare effects in the game? In any aspects or I know logistics you mentioned already is going to be an aspect of the game. So he's really curious about the cyber warfare
Right.
component.
At this level, it'll be pretty abstracted, but units will be rated for tech level. So if say the Soviets are rolling fairly advanced modern units against against, say, Central Asian militia, they're going to have a technological advantage, which will show up on the battlefield. And one of the things that is modeling is cyber. But there will be you will have the capability to drop in special operations forces that are there not
Hmm.
just to advise you, on battlefield tactics, but they will also be able to improve the air defense of less technologically advanced units and
Right.
bring other advantages.
And it is not a pure solitaire design game. Obviously, it's not a solitaire game. Say like Gregory Smith does a lot of games that way. But this is something you did mention just for the air unit allocation. There could be some hidden methods behind that. But I think for the most part, this is an example of a game you can go ahead, roll up your sleeves, and play all the different sides. And maybe if there is some limited intelligence aspects, we haven't really got that far in the design development stage yet, but sometimes we'll come up with a clever bot idea or something where if something was really meant to be limited, maybe we put a system over that's going to help with solitaire play if we feel it's worth the investment. But it's going to be playable solitaire. I
It
would
will
say
be playable
regardless.
solitaire. I mean, you mentioned earlier you were playing, War in the
Yeah.
Ice
Oh
solitaire.
yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
This will be
Absolutely.
like it will be like a lot of games where it is possible if you're schizophrenic enough, to play it solitaire. It'll be a lot more fun with two players or with a group, especially if you're doing a multi-map scenario of it, because it's easier to surprise your other players.
And then I think this is a nuclear ballistic. I'm not sure I got the acronym down here since I'm not a military
Nuclear,
brat.
biological, chemical.
Ah,
So,
thank you.
thank
Thank
you
you.
for mentioning that, Mr. Bird. Okay. Um, there will be no nuclear weapon use in the game, but the scenario will refer to it in ways that I'm not going to unveil right now. Um,
Mhm.
Biochemical, no. What the game will feature is environmental warfare, because in this
Mm.
scenario there will have been significant climate change, deforestation, and players will have some limited ability to conduct environmental warfare on the
Hmm.
battlefield, including, for example, inducing tsunamis, which is going to ruin,
Wow.
ruin an amphibious unit all day.
Wow, that'll be a first, I think, right? I think that's a
Uh,
first.
I think
I don't think
so.
that's been done before.
Yeah,
All
and
right, we're gonna put that in big letters on the back cover of the game. Tsunamis have an impact in your marine operations or dam busting. Yeah, sure, that has an impact too. I would suppose on the.
this brings me to the point is that we will be having playtesting opportunities
Yes, yes,
soon
very
once
true.
we have all the maps done and
We'll
the
get on
calendar.
Vassal. We'll get it on Vassal. Mo's right here from Mo's Game Table, who was on earlier with us during the broadcast tonight. Yes, we always
And
work to get everything in Vassal.
there is plenty of time for fresh ideas. So people are, asking, will the game have this or that? These are great ideas, and let's see what we might be able to add to it.
Oh, here's
Because
something for maybe the future. I don't know if 2025 is too soon for this timeline
okay,
wise.
oh, Space Marines. Okay, so this is a real inside baseball curmudgeons with dice. The original, the original Objective Moscow game
Ah, okay.
had a scenario where there was actually a Space Marines unit where you could drop onto deep behind Soviet lines from space shuttles, and people either loved it or they hated it. There will be no Space Marines in this game because it is not Objective Moscow.
There you go. Straight answer. We're getting a little on the dark side here. I mean, if we're gonna, I guess, recreate some horrible things happening, we got pandemics. That's not too far that's from the warfare. We were talking about biological warfare, and then starvation being
This is a
an
tough
effect.
crowd. Yeah, I thought this
Yeah.
game was already depressing enough, and you guys are coming up with
Oh,
all.
no, we always push the envelope. We're always looking to push the envelope into full-on depression here. Absolutely, that's how we
Okay,
enjoy
Airman, sign up for playtesting, and we can
this.
see
Okay,
we can
yeah.
see about that.
E4 Airman. Okay, E4 Airman, you're going to be one of our first play testers. We'll get the starvation mode going for you. But no, that's wonderful. I think so. So again, this is an early, early draft design. You've been working on the design. We've got 2 of the maps done. It's early phases. It's early phases still. We're not starting play testing next week, just so everybody knows. But no, it looks real solid. I mean, from the materials that you've already completed, and you've got a very clear focus of what you're looking to accomplish with this game, and maybe add-ons, like you said, if it goes well. We can get into caucuses and some other areas as well. Will be very, very interesting to see what happens. So I'm just happy to have you back. So it's great to have you. Thanks for your service, of course. Obviously, congratulations on your service career, your new career starting now with everything you're doing. And I'm glad that game design is going to be a small aspect of your focus. And you can see we've got some folks here that will be happy to keep you company and give you a hard time. And we'll do play testing. You'll get support with play testers, and we'll get proofers involved, the usual things. Yeah, we're really excited to have you on board here. And then in the future, as far as future designs go, we're definitely, Compass is definitely interested in wanting to support you. You mentioned caucuses or offshoots. I think somebody asked earlier because they missed the beginning. Is there a way to combine these 4 folio games? And you mentioned already there could be 2 map games. You could have 2 maps, and then you said there's a campaign. There's a way
I,
to do a full.
I am
full
hoping that we will be able to design a campaign game so that if the
yeah.
Soviets are doing well on one front, they can shift forces to the other, for example. But yeah,
That's
we're
Justin. Justin was asking that
at a
question.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
They are intended to be independent, Justin, but I think that inevitably people will say, well, can't we link them together? So I'm hoping that we will have that in the box at the beginning. And worst come to worst, that would be a follow-on supplement, but it should go in the box.
Well, I have to say it was an absolute pleasure having you on tonight. This will be available, of course, the recording immediately for anybody to watch back. Again, great. Thanks again for all your work and early on in your career, the designs, and obviously you've done articles and other works as well, not just the games listed here, but other work as well. And what you've accomplished. Again, just a great career, and really interesting to see how you applied what you learned early on with SPI, how that sort of came into play with the, and now it's sort of now what's interesting now it's sort of now the reverse direction.
Mhm.
You had something from SPI days that you brought to your political service career, and now from that career you're bringing things back to your design. So your toolkit's gotten bigger, or at least it's been influenced a certain way around soft factors, politics, things of that nature. And no, it's very. I'm very. I know people are very excited to see how this design's coming along. They realize there's going to be a lot of soft factors and things related to what you experience in the real world that definitely have application in today's day and age. And yeah, 2025. It seems like a pretty realistic alternative history case. So
So
plausible.
I'm delighted to be back designing, and looking forward to this enormously. And it's a privilege to be associated with Compass. Thanks
Well,
very
it's a pleasure to have you here again tonight. I hope everybody enjoyed having the time. I don't know, like I said earlier, I don't know if you've done a lot of interviews in the past about your war game experience and designs or your service career, but hopefully this is the first of many, if it is the first or second. But what we'll do is we'll plan to have you back, Phil, when we get further along with the pre-production of the game, getting it through the development, where we bring on people as project team members, where they do play testing, proofing. We'll have Vassal. When we get much further along, the rule we have at Compass is when the game is basically artwork's like 90% complete. So you're really more just focused on the rules, getting
much.
the final rule edits done, the final proofing. There's not going to be major changes to the game. It's in beta mode, not alpha mode. So we're not adding or changing things in a big swath. That's when the pre-order phase would kick in. So our pre-orders are now pushed out to later in the process. But we'll definitely want to have you back when we announce the pre-order for this game, and we should have some project team members at that time for sure already involved. So really excited to have you back in the fray. All the best on your pursuits in this new chapter of your life outside of wargaming as well. And we'll look forward to talking to you. Hopefully, it'll be later this year, I think. I would expect we'll be talking later this year again when we hit that milestone.
Okay. Thanks very much, John. Thank you,
Thank you
everybody.
so much, Phil. Take care. Bye bye. Well, I hope you all enjoyed. It's great to, I really enjoy, I didn't have the experience growing up young, West Coaster myself, to have the experience, those that worked at SPI. And so many of these SPI designers seem to have such a rich experience with so many stories to tell. I know we didn't have time to get through all these stories that I'm sure Phil has, but I'm sure he could share some more stories when he's with us again sometime later this year when we're in position to announce the pre-order for Vengeance Quad. So hope you're interested in the topic. I think it's great to have Phil back to active game design. Compass is really happy and proud to sponsor and support his efforts in that regard. And just as a reminder, we're going to be back with our town hall next week, a week from tonight, with Bill Thomas. Again, thanks for all those of you that participated in our holiday Compass catalog sale. I know some of you said, "Man, that sale was so long," but hopefully, people have different times or moments when they can actually attack with their wallet. So hopefully, that extended time period worked out in your favor, that you're able to pick up some deals. And of course, we've got deals with our pre-orders, and we'll probably have some specials happening now and then in the future as well. So join us next week. That's when we have our town hall, which means that's also when we will be giving away a free game as well. Besides thanking Phil for being on tonight, I want to thank Maurice Fitzgerald, the Moe's Game Table, for taking time out to helping Compass again, to help us with customers, with customer outreach, with video support, the tutorials, with the Learn to Play series. It's a lot of work and effort, and it's great to see how Mo enjoys it. And I think Mo really enjoys it because he sees people saying they really appreciate what Mo does that helps you enjoy the hobby, especially when it comes to Compass Games or the hobby in general, with his own content that he creates. So again, everybody, I look forward to seeing you. Have a great weekend. I look forward to seeing you a week from tonight when we have our next town hall with Bill Thomas. In the meantime, stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll be seeing you next week. Take care, everybody. Good night.